Hello and welcome to LEXASCOPE AIR. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to set up a profile, get content in, and start surfing the content so you can see the goodness that is LEXASCOPE. The very first thing that you need to do is set up a profile. So once you launch the application and you accept the end user license agreement, go ahead and click New. Just fill out the information here, and when you hit Create Account, the information will be automatically sent here and you'll be able to start working. Now that you have your account all set up, you can see your account details or change them or add new profiles if you need to by clicking LEXASCOPE AIR. There's two things that are useful on here. If you want to work on an airplane or something with the data that's cached on your machine, click this. Make sure you unselect it when you want to get new data. And then you can pick any of the new profiles here or set up new profiles as necessary. So to make a project, you click New. Let's call it something like Oil Spill, and create the project. Now you're asked what kind of content you want to add to the project. You can add files off your drive. You can add a whole folder full of files. You can copy and paste text right into here, or you can copy and paste a list of URLs. Or if your text has URLs in them, if you click this, it will just go get the URLs. So this is very useful for processing a bunch of URLs. You can add a single URL, add an RSS feed by copying the RSS feed. This works really well for things like processing Google Alerts. Or you can add a search directly to Google, Twitter, blog posts, or WordPress. So if I wanted to do a search for oil spill on Google, I would just do this. And then let's do another one on Twitter. And then you click OK to be done. And then it will go off and do it. So an important thing to note with this is an asynchronous process. So the client tells the servers what it wants them to do, and then it will take some time for the servers to gather and process the content. By having this button clicked, it will check regularly to actually see if changes have occurred, if anything's updated. Or you can just hit that button and that will actually go off and check manually. It can take up to half an hour for it to collect everything and get it back, so don't get too impatient. So set up some projects and then actually go back and check them in a little bit is the right thing to do. Once you've got projects in here, it's easy to load them up by hitting load. We'll select a project that I know has some stuff in it. And so let's do this project that's around Microsoft. So you're presented with the connection map. You might want to zoom out on the connection map to see what's going on. We present four kinds of entities on the connection map. We show you companies and people. We show you themes that we extract, and then any custom entities you configure. And I'll show you how to actually do custom entities. So to check to say, I just am interested in looking at the companies that are here, you can just unselect everything. And these are the companies that are actually on this list here. So you can zoom in a little bit and we can see them. You can flip back and forth in between this graphical view and the list view. The relative size shows you how many times, how many articles, relatively speaking, it had in related to other. If you mouse over it, it will show you the number of mentions and the positive to negative ratio. If it's green, it's largely positive. Gray means it's mixed between positive, neutral, and negative. If you click this button here under sentiment, it will actually break it down and show you a pie chart of sort of the relative positive and negative inside of here. So you can control the number of companies, themes, or people that are displayed. You can either put the number in or slide these sliders here. So if I want to see, say the top 10 companies, I do that. And the thickness of the line indicates how tightly correlated these companies are. So Microsoft and Apple happen to be co-mentioned quite a bit, more than Microsoft and Google. Now Bing isn't mentioned very much, which is why this line happens to be less thick than this line here, because Apple's got more mentions than Bing. But it's interesting that Apple and Microsoft are being co-mentioned so often inside of here. You can see the top 10 list by flipping over to the list view, and you can sort by articles or sort by mentions. And then when you go back to the map, what you could do is you can say, okay, only show me content where Microsoft was mentioned at least twice. So more interesting than this is when you actually look to see, okay, let's look at themes. let's say I want to look at the top 10 themes. And so the map can very easily get fairly distracted and fairly disjoint. And what you can do is can say, okay, I only want to see things that are directly connected to Microsoft. And so I put Microsoft in C, and I set the number of companies to 0. So it will only count the thing that's in the C box. So now what we see is these are the themes that are most often related to Microsoft inside of the past, few days that we've been actually collecting content here. If you want to actually see what's underneath these, see the content, you can double click on any of the entities in the map, or any of the companies or entities inside, or companies, entities, or themes inside of the list view. If you want to see the original content, just go ahead and click on that, and it will take you to the original article. Now, there's a couple things in here if you want to delete an article for consideration. This is the star actually references something that we call aboutness, where the entity appears in the summary. You see a summary of the content, and then you can see whether this was considered positive or neutral, and negative is a little red minus sign here. Now, if you want to exclude something from consideration, it's very easy. You could drag it into don't, or just right click and say, okay, I don't want you to see this inside of here. I don't want to see this particular entity or this particular theme inside of this graph. So other things that you can do here, you can say, okay, only show me content that is negative. So by deselecting the positive and the neutral, you can see, okay, what are the themes that are associated with negativity for Microsoft? So illegal copying, some court case in China, ongoing fight, Chinese company. So these are things that allow you to actually see, okay, where are the places where Microsoft is having issues? And if I click through here, you'll see that the only content is negative content. Other things that you can do inside of here that are useful is actually configure custom entities. So the nice thing about configuring a custom entity is to say, okay, say I wanted to track the concept of illegal copying as an entity itself, or say I wanted to track a person that wasn't necessarily mentioned in here, or that you don't see on the map, and you want to make sure that you are capturing this person accurately. You can easily go inside of entities and say, okay, I want to make a new list. I want to look for Gates as a person. And so we can make a custom list of entities, and actually the next time the system goes to retrieve the data, it will have these as custom entities. So it's most useful for things like product names, because we're not picking them up as people or companies. So if you have a particular series of products, it's very easy for you to put them in there, or diseases or chemicals or anything that aren't native entities that we're picking up. So that's the basic capabilities of the system. You can change the date range that you're looking at by either dragging this slider or by saying, I want to do it from this date and this time to a particular date and time. And so once you've been collecting data for a little while, you can actually say, well, I just want to see the today, okay, and then I want to see yesterday. And since I just started this project earlier, I'm not going to see anything for yesterday. So it's very easy to look at different time frames and then compare the lists and see how have my themes changed or how have people changed. So we hope that this gives you a feel for what you can do with the data that is coming back from LEXASCOPE. This is just an example. It's just a demonstration. We think it's interesting in its capabilities for discovering connections and seeing how different things interrelate. And we hope that you find some interesting things to do with the LEXASCOPE API as well. Thank you very much.